Didn't play You've Got to Love.
Didn't you? No. How can you not? Shame.
David Bowie, Let's Dance. That's what Neil Atkinson's been doing in the studio here on Radio City Talk. Even been singing along and letting loose, Leo.
Oh, yeah. That Moonlight. I'm just obsessed with that Moonlight.
Seriously, no?
It is the serious Moonlight.
We're doing all in the game. It's Radio City Talk. Sarah Halpman from the Blue Room, Neil Atkinson from the Anfield Rap is here. Let's get on to the Merseyside derby. And the one thing that we haven't mentioned from the Watford game on Saturday, which was Jordan Henderson's sending off, Neil. And that's... I think it could have a huge bearing. I'm sure Sarah was absolutely delighted when she saw that he's going to be suspended.
Yeah, but it will. I mean, the thing that you now know is that he'll play against Paris. So, Liverpool have got, they've got good players, got really good midfielders, but you obviously want the captain and the person who is, I think, best suited at setting Liverpool's tempo. People might not sometimes like the tempo that he chooses to set, but he is the embodiment of what the manager wants from that area of the pitch, on the pitch. And I think you saw that at the weekend as well. Him and Wijnaldum in there. I suspect you'll see Liverpool go with, I think it'll be Wijnaldum and Fabinho. And it might actually make the manager's mind up. He's going to play 4-2-3-1 against Everton. That's my instinct. I don't think he'll play 4-2-3-1 in Paris. So again, I think Shaqiri will go into that one well rested next weekend. And I expect Liverpool's side to be Fabinho. Wijnaldum will come back onto the defence in a minute, with the attack being Shaqiri off the right, and then the front three arranged: Mane off the left, Firmino working, and Salah up top. That's what I think Liverpool will now go with. It might have been a little bit different if Henderson had been fully fit, and I expect you'll see Wijnaldum and Milner feature in midweek with Henderson against Paris, and the front three again. It's worth remembering that for the Merseyside derby last season, Klopp rested a couple in attack, and he played Dominic Solanke. There's a fighting chance he may rest one of the usual front three to get Sturridge on the pitch, given Sturridge's record against Everton, and also the nature of the game might just suit Daniel. But we'll see. I still think that ultimately what Liverpool's task is this season will dictate a lot of that, and then Liverpool do go to Burnley midweek, where he may then make 2 or 3 or even 4 or 5 changes for that.
Yeah, I was quite pleased to see that Henderson had got his second yellow yesterday. I mean, it's one of those, it's just a nice little kind of bonus thing to have for an Evertonian going into the derby, because I think Henderson is somebody that, in the World Cup as well for England, I think he was one of the strongest players in the side, and I think a lot of the work that he does goes under the radar, and I think he has a big impact, and he's a strong character, and he's a leader. So as a Blue, yeah, I was quite pleased to see that he's going to miss the derby, and it's the first time in a long time that, I mean, let's get this straight. I hate derbies. I hate derby week. I hate the feeling of feeling sick and anxious. And I think that's the same on both parts. I know Liverpool have obviously been a lot happier out of the two sides over recent years. But this is about the best I've felt for a while. And I feel that because although, look, everybody knows how good of a side Liverpool are. They're one of the best sides in Europe at the moment. And we're all very well aware of that. But Everton are kind of... they've kind of gone under the radar. We're starting to pick up good results. We're in the top 6 again. We've got to be full of confidence. We've got players like Richarlison who's scoring for fun for club and country. Again, getting a winner for Brazil the other week. And Sigurdsson's on fire. Gomez has come in. Lookman as well, by the way, who came on against Cardiff and again just looked phenomenal. He's a real talent, that lad. So we've got players that can hurt Liverpool, especially away from home, the way we're set up to play. The likes of Bernard as well in there, and I think it's Liverpool are clearly going to be favourites for the game, and I think that works in our favour as well. And whatever happens here, I wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool won. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw, and I wouldn't be that surprised if Everton won either. And it's been a long time. I would always go in thinking, let's just not get absolutely battered here. And I don't feel like that. I think whatever happens, regardless, even if Liverpool do win, I think Everton are going to go there and be able to puff their chests out a bit and say, look, we're Everton and we're kind of back and we mean business. And yeah, it's yeah, not excited, but more optimistic certainly than I have been for a while, which is nice.
Is it 2010 last Everton win? Is that right?
Yeah, it was. It was the Tim Cahill and Arteta derby, and I think that was 2010 2-0 at Goodison. So that says it all. And a lot of it is psychological. I think it has to be, because although we talk about how good of a side Liverpool are, the stats and just how how bad we are when we go to Anfield. I think it's like drilled into us as supporters, the players. It's like this mentality, this mental block that we seem to go there and not get a result, because we've seen much lesser sides go there and beat Liverpool over the years. So I think it's, and the players that we've had come in, we've spoken about Luca Dean, your Yerry Minas, your Richarlison now on fire for Brazil. These players that have come from the likes of Barcelona and various sides, and I think they don't necessarily get as intimidated. We've spoken about this when they go to grounds like Anfield and Stamford Bridge the week before. A couple of weeks ago, we saw how they went there and held their own. And I think we're seeing a very different. We're going to see a very different mentality from the side, from the manager, and from the supporters going into this derby.
It's Radio City Talk. It's all in the game. Neil Atkinson from the Anfield Wrap, Sarah Halpin from the Blue Room here. Just want to take you back to the midfield that you've picked for the next 2 games, and you mentioned Milner possibly coming off the bench or something like that. Has he slipped down the pecking order now then, because he didn't play on Saturday?
No, it's not a pecking order thing. I think it's a fitness thing, and I think that the manager I think would have wanted. I think the manager's got Wijnaldum and Milner in at the start of the season, at the start of pre-season, and I think he's known he's going to use their legs a lot, given that they didn't go to the World Cup in the early part of the season. I think that you'll see, when it comes to Liverpool's big games in February, March, April, James Milner will play them. But I think that for now it wouldn't surprise me if I think Klopp this season, like many managers, I think that you need to sacrifice your players' legs at the right time. You need to put your players through an intensive period at the right time. And I think with Milner, I think it wouldn't be surprised now if Milner takes a bit of a step back through this period, then becomes integral through Liverpool's Christmas, then takes another step back and then becomes integral come February, March, April, where that's where he comes back into his own, and that's what I think will happen. I think there's a fighting chance that Wijnaldum, for instance, doesn't play midweek and that he goes with Keita. Instead, he goes Henderson, Milner, and Keita, because firstly he needs to get Keita on the pitch at some stage, but secondly, I think he also will want Wijnaldum to. Wijnaldum's just had 2 tough games for Holland. Plus he's been Liverpool's most consistent performer through the season so far, and by that I mean in terms of attendance, in terms of ground covered. So I think there's every chance that Wijnaldum, again, not dissimilar to Milner, takes a little bit of a back seat if other players become available. But then I think that if Henderson can't play obviously against Everton, which he can't, then I think Wijnaldum probably becomes a dead cert to start that one, and that's the way it goes. That's part of the way seasons operate, and I think that's the best way this manager can use his resources. I think that Keita probably gets his start against Paris Saint-Germain, gets his start against Burnley, and then possibly gets his start against Bournemouth, and that sort of gets him through the next few games. As I say, I think Fabinho starts against Everton and then may well also start against Burnley, and then in amongst all of that you're going to always be saying, well, it's surprised he's not picked him, I'm surprised he's not picked him, and I think you'll also see him through this run after Paris and maybe after Everton rotate one of the front 3 out every single game. So it may well be that he goes with all 3 of them for these first 3 matches, because he knows how important they are. But then 1 or even 2 of them don't feature against Burnley. 1 or even 2 of them don't feature against Bournemouth. 1 maybe doesn't feature against Napoli if Liverpool feel secure. But if they don't, then all 3 feature against Napoli, and then all 3 feature against Manchester United. And that's what I think you'll see. And I hope all 3 feature against Everton. I think it was a mistake last season to start Solanke, but I understood why he did it. I think that sometimes it's easy for me to say that. I haven't got the manager's sports science information, but I'd like him to start all 3 against Everton of the front 3 and look to maybe get 1 or 2 of them off the pitch on 60 or so. You may look at it the other way. I mean, I just had a little look in the paper here. Liverpool have conceded 1 goal at home all season in the league, and Everton have scored 7 away goals, but they've only conceded 9. And maybe Jurgen Klopp will think to himself, you know what, this will be a game that's won and lost in the last half an hour, exactly as Watford was. And so he may well decide that actually he wants 1 from the bench to be able to come on 60 and freshen it up for Liverpool. And maybe you might see Sturridge start at the expense, say, of Firmino, who then comes off the bench in the last half an hour to try and influence proceedings. Would you like to see Solanke involved at all over the next couple of weeks? Got 4 goals for England under 21s, didn't he? One of them was a cracker. I think it's dead hard to see how, when you've got Shaqiri, you've got Sturridge, you've got Origi. I think it's difficult to get him, that's a shift in pecking order. So, yes, I would in one sense in that I like him a lot. And I think he was better than he was given credit for at times last season, but he just didn't stick it in the back of the net. I think it's going to be, but I think it's so hard to see where he gets that game from. And this is also in a universe where Liverpool are awaiting the return of Ryan Brewster. So I don't think it's straightforward for Solanke at all. I think that going out the League Cup damages him, damages his opportunities. So I think it is a shame for him, but you know, I don't see him getting parachuted in. It's difficult to go from not on the bench to the idea of him starting any of the next few games. You know, I don't think Origi was on the bench at the weekend. I think I'm right in saying. So, you know, if Origi's not getting the bench at the minute, then where does somebody else feature? And I think that's the challenge for the manager. So I don't think it's going to be straightforward. But I do, you know, I think in general Liverpool have got the strength and depth. I've just done all this conversation. I haven't mentioned Adam Lallana once. For instance, we haven't talked about how well Dejan Lovren played against Watford, and I think that there's every chance Lovren starts against the Blues. I think he'll do that and put Gomez right back. But you know, I don't know that for a fact. I think that Lovren though might miss out against Paris Saint-Germain, but get next weekend's game and go from there.
We haven't really talked about Paris. It's I suppose it's an important game in some senses, but Liverpool, in theory, only need the result against Napoli, don't need to go through. So
yeah, but it's still have to. I mean, you know, Liverpool can go through if they beat Paris Saint-Germain. Liverpool get 2 bites at knockout football, and they should go into the Paris Saint-Germain game not quite like it's a free hit, but you know, I would only really be thinking about a draw if it's level with 15 minutes to go. I think if Liverpool genuinely it'll be a really tough game, and it's going to take it out of Liverpool, and it's one of the reasons why next Sunday's an opportunity for Everton. But the flip side of that is, you know, Liverpool, if they can go to Paris and get a result, this is the side, by the way, will play won 14 in the league on. But if Liverpool can go to Paris and get a result, then they qualify. It's done. It's finished. We can relax, and that's you know, that'd be a great place to be in going into that final game. And if they get a point, they've got one game of knockout football against Napoli to go through. It's almost like the last 16s come early for Liverpool. But I think that to get it done midweek will be what's in the manager and the players' mindsets. That's not to take Paris Saint-Germain lightly. They should be favourites going into the game, but that could almost play into Liverpool as well. You know, let them push up, let them be the more aggressive side, and let's see if we can pick them off, do some really good counter-attacking, go see you later, and go from there.
And there are injury concerns over Mbappe and Neymar as well. Sarah, just finally from you, how would you like to see Everton line up against Liverpool? Do you make any changes from the weekend? Because the away form against the top 4, 5, 6 sides, the performance have been getting steadily better, but the results Chelsea aside haven't.
Yeah, this is it, and I think, you know, the performances are there and the results are going to be coming soon. That's how I feel, and I think the only change, there's 2 that I potentially make, you know, but I think ultimately I probably would stick with Mina and with Keane as the centre-back pairing, but there is always that option of Zuma to come in instead. I think he'll stick with Keane and Mina, and probably that should be what he sticks with. The only change I'd be tempted to make would be to start Lookman ahead of Theo Walcott. Now, Lookman, in his cameos, in recent appearances that he's made, he has, you know, impacted the game positively. He looks quite remarkable. Some of the things he does, he's clearly a player that's got bags of talent and is a real handful and causes real stress for the opposition. So I'm tempted to bring him instead of Walcott. That said, Walcott could start and he could come on as an impact player, but you could say the same about Lookman starting and then maybe Walcott coming in with a point to prove if he doesn't get the start. So yeah, I'd be tempted to put Lookman in, but other than that, I'd keep the side the same. They're doing very well at the moment.
Guys, pleasure as always.
Thanks very much.
That's Neil Atkinson from the Anfield Wrap. Sarah Halpin from the Blue Room. It's Radio City Talk. News and Sport at 6 is on the way next. After that, music coming up from Huey Lewis in the news and Franz Ferdinand, and a chance to hear from Rafa Benitez ahead of the Newcastle game at Burnley tonight.
Make a difference this Christmas.
Rafa.
Buy and donate.
Thank you as ever, guys.
Nice one.